is the town known as Fort Chance, population 1,037. Obey our laws. The case the federal agents call the hanging jury began on June 14th, a dreary summer morning. Pat Gallagher sent his partner, Stoney Crockett, to Fort Chance, Oklahoma on an undercover assignment under the alias Bill Stone. Following a mysterious tip, Stoney rode to the Fort Chance General Store, tied his horse, and started for the side door.
Hey, what's wrong?
The hanging jury wasn't a proper legal murder jury, 6 men holding 6 proxies, but then frontier justice is sometimes a little rough and ready. If administered by a proper judge, it can be almost as effective as the law book kind.
Unless we have order, I shall have to ask the bailiff to clear the courtroom. After all, this is a murder trial. Mr. Herndon, you may proceed with the cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge Dixon. Now then, Mr. Stone, you admit that this is your gun.
Oh, yes, sir, but...
And the coroner found 1 bullet in the body of the deceased, one Donald Garden. And the bullet could have only come from this gun.
Yes, sir, but I didn't fire the gun.
We have already proved that 1 shot was fired from this gun.
At last, I was in the courtroom of the hanging judge of Fort Chance, Jefferson Dixon. Quite a surprise to see Stoney on the witness stand. Hadn't heard from him since we set up this assignment. Judge Dixon was getting famous. He'd tried 50 men for murder in less than 2 years and hanged every one of them. This short-handed jury would have been strictly illegal anywhere else. But in Judge Dixon's court, they'd found 50 defendants guilty of murder.
And in the face of all of this evidence and testimony, you still stick to that story?
Well, sure I do. It's the truth.
Let's hear it once more, please, just so the jury will have it straight.
Well, like I said, I opened this door and a body fell out. Somebody I'd never seen before. And then I woke up in jail.
You mean your mind went blank?
No, somebody hit me on the head.
No further questions.
Now I knew why I hadn't heard from Stoney. He wasn't just testifying. He was the defendant. Sure looked like he was going to be number 51. He was being framed for murder.
Gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Will you read it, please?
We, the jury, after carefully considering the testimony and evidence, find the defendant, William Stone, guilty of murder as charged.
Will the prisoner rise and face the bench? You have heard the verdict of the jury. It is the sentence of this court that you be taken to the Fort Chance jail, to be held there 1 week. On June 21st, an hour after sunrise, you will be hanged by the neck until you are dead. 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 Court adjourned.
One thing I don't get, Pat. Now, they couldn't know who I am. Why would they want to frame a guy named William Stone?
They murdered this man Garden. They needed somebody to pin it on.
Oh, and I come along to oblige them.
Yeah, George Mason was right. This is too big a job for the state to handle. Good thing he called in the federal government. What'd Mason have to say?
You know a funny thing? I never did contact Mason. I didn't know his cover name, and I didn't hear from him.
Well, in that case, I'd better ride over to his home at Capital City. Maybe somebody in his family knows what name he's using.
Hey, that's a good idea. I'll tell you what you do, Pat. Go over to the judge and tell him who I am, and I'll ride up there with you.
I can't, Stoney.
What do you mean you can't? What are you going to do, let him hang me?
No, but if I tell the judge that we're federal agents, this whole case will blow up in our face.
Oh, I don't care if it blows up in everybody's face. I'm in here on a murder rap.
Look, it'll only take me a couple of days. They're not going to hang you until for at least 6.
Well, isn't that lucky for me?
Look, I'll do it as quick as I can. It'll take 2 days. Then I'll be back and get you out.
Gee, thanks. Don't hang me up.
Come in.
Judge Dixon?
Yeah?
My name's Patrick.
Oh, sit down, Mr. Patrick.
Thank you. I'm an insurance inspector.
Oh, that's interesting work.
Relatives of one of our policy holders, a man by the name of Burke, the Dakota Kid, put in a claim to our company for $5,000.
Claim? I don't understand.
Well, this man Burke was tried in your court for murder and sentenced to hang. All we want you to do is to verify that the sentence was carried out.
Well, I see, that was 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it?
That's right.
Well, unfortunately, all of our records of that time were destroyed in the fire.
The fire?
Yeah, the same fire that killed my brother. You mean you haven't heard about it?
No, Judge, I haven't.
Well, actually, it was a good thing. You see, my brother was a notorious criminal, a convicted forger. He was a disgrace to the family.
Yeah, that happens, Judge.
Now, as near as I can figure it, he was trying to open my desk, break into it. He overturned the kerosene lamp, tried to put it out, and was trapped.
Well, that's too bad.
Yes, you might try the state capitol.
Thank you. I'll do that. Goodbye, Judge.
Goodbye. Good luck.
Oh, one thing.
Yes?
You're a legal authority. I heard of a case back east where one man ordered another man to do a killing. They found them both guilty.
Yes, that was the proper finding.
Is that always the case? The man who does the ordering is also guilty?
Well, yes, he would be in my court.
Thank you very much, Judge. I tried to figure it out. A judge with 15-year record for honesty and fair decisions. What would make him turn crooked? Or had he? Could our information be wrong? But if it was, then why had he framed Stoney for murder? The Registrar's office had a complete record of all the cases Judge Dixon tried since he first took office. For 15 years, the judge handled the usual cases. But when I got the records of the last year, the time since the fire, everything was changed. From then on, it seemed like the judge tried nothing but wanted outlaws with big rewards on their heads, almost $250,000. And every one of them hanged. Didn't seem to make sense. But it had to mean something. I was sure of that. My next move was to look up the family of the state investigator, George Mason. Found his sister in the front yard. Janet Mason?
Yes.
My name's Pat Gallagher.
Oh, yes. I've often heard George mention you. Would you mind handing me the pruning shears?
That was all.
Thank you, sir.
My partner, Stoney Crockett, was assigned to help your brother. But Stoney got himself in a little trouble.
A little trouble?
Yes, nothing to do with George. It seems that Stoney got himself framed for murder.
Oh.
I have to contact your brother in Fort Chance. Do you happen to know what name he's using?
Of course. This is rather a strange coincidence you should catch me out here.
Why?
Because that's the name George uses.
What name?
Garden.
Garden? Donald Garden?
That's right. There is something wrong.
Yes, there is. I hate to have to tell you this, but Donald Garden was the man that Stoney was supposed to have killed.
You mean my brother's dead? What?
Yes. Is there anything I can do to help?
Yes, there is. Let me help you find my brother's murderer.
You really mean that?
I do, more than anything.
I'll tell you what you do. You ride into town. See a Doc Burrows. He's the coroner. You find out these questions. When you get them, I'll meet you in Fort Chance tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
We're in real trouble, Judge.
We are?
You were right about Gardner, whatever his name was.
The state court investigator?
No doubt about it.
Well, what about the man we got in jail, Stone?
Figures to be a federal man. He might have even been working with Gardner.
That'd be ironic, wouldn't it? To be convicted for his murder.
But that doesn't help us. What can we do about it?
Now, put yourself in Stone's place. If he is a federal agent, he's obviously going to keep his mouth shut to put us off guard.
But suppose he does decide to talk.
Did you ever hear of a man, gentleman, doing very much talking with a rope around his neck?
I don't get it, Judge. You sentenced him yourself. And we don't hang him till Tuesday.
Yeah, and that phony insurance investigator I trailed to Capital City, he'll be back here tomorrow.
Well, we'll send 2 men to take care of him, but what about the one in jail?
Well, is there any reason why the execution can't take place earlier? Say tomorrow morning, gentlemen?
No reason at all, as long as the judge signs the papers.
All legal and proper.
Yeah, but we can't build the gallows by morning.
We'll do it vigilante style.
Here are your deputies' badges. And I'll sign the order. Stone will be executed tomorrow morning.
You're a magician, Judge. You can sure pull him out of the hat.
And, Tom, you better get a new rope for that job. Have a drink, gentlemen.
I rode back to Fort Chance still trying to fit the pieces together. George Mason's murder, Stoney framed, the fire in the judge's office, and a long list of wanted outlaws who seemed to congregate at Fort Chance just so the hanging judge could hang them. It just didn't fit together. Then all at once, I had an idea. If I was right, it would all make sense. Everything that had happened.
Hey, Stone. Yeah? Anything special you'd like to eat this morning?
Well, there sure is. I'd like a nice big porterhouse steak about so thick, and lots of onions, some nice Irish spuds, and some real fresh bread. And for dessert, I'd like a piece of apple pie with a big thick slab of Swiss cheese on it, and a whole pot of coffee.
Well, that's going to take a little time, but I guess you're not going to go anywhere.
You mean after 2 days of beans, you're actually going to feed me?
That's right.
Why this sudden generosity?
Well, we figured since this is your last meal, you might as well get something special.
What do you mean, my last meal?
You're going to be hanged in an hour.
I'm going to be hanged in an hour. Today isn't Tuesday. The judge said Tuesday.
Yeah, I know, but he changed his mind. All right, Padre. You can go in now.
What do you mean he changed his mind? Look, Padre, they can't hang me today. It's Tuesday. Listen,
Look,
you haven't even got a gallows built or anything.
Don't worry about us. we'll make out all right.
I knew my hunch was right after I dug into the first grave, but opened 3 more just to make sure. They were all empty. The famous outlaws whose names were on the tombstones had never been buried there. In other words, the hanging judge hadn't really hanged them at all. I had the missing pieces now. Didn't take long to put them together. I couldn't waste a moment getting Stoney out of jail.
Get on. Look, you can't... I said, get on.
Blindfold?
No, and I want to tell you something. I'm no murderer.
Shut up. You had a chance to say anything you wanted to say in court.
Well, looks like we're all ready. Go ahead.
Right, Stoney, right!
Raise your horses.
Well, looks like we lost him this time.
Yeah. Say, what was the idea back there? I thought you weren't supposed to hang till next Tuesday.
Now, look, that wasn't my idea. How do you think I felt when they brought a big steak into me? They even sent the minister in.
Good thing I didn't stop for breakfast this morning. You'd been hanging from the end of that rope by now.
Don't even mention it. You know, it just sends cold chills up my spine. Say, what was that guy's name who was going under? George Mason.
Yeah. Donald Garden.
Donald Garden? Well, that's the fellow that they thought I...
Nice frame-up, eh, Stoney?
No wonder they wanted to hang me today. They wanted to shut me up, quick.
Yeah, if that's right. We'd better move and move fast.
Back to Fort Chance?
No, I'm going to ride into town and talk to the judge. You head for Capital City. I told Janet Mason to get some very important evidence for me. You meet her and get the sheriff and meet me back here.
You sure you'll be all right alone?
I'll be all right. They won't expect me back so quick.
All right, good luck.
Starting another fire, Judge? Or should I say Sam?
What'd you say?
Put the rest of those matches on the desk.
You're a federal agent, of course.
That's right.
Working with Garden and Stone?
That's right. Their names are Mason and Crockett. Too bad, Sam, you didn't get a chance to burn this receipt for the reward money. For Joe Wabash, $5,000.
Why do you persist in calling me Sam?
Because that's your name. Sam Dixon didn't die in that fire over a year ago. The real judge did, and his twin brother took his place, and you're that twin.
How did you figure that out?
Remember that question I asked you, Dixon? About one man giving an order to another man to kill?
Well, certainly they're both equally guilty.
You're wrong, Judge. They're only guilty when a crime's been committed. No real judge would give out with a legal opinion like that, because every time he ordered an execution, he'd be equally guilty.
That's very interesting.
Where's Tom Hendren?
Getting the horses. Don't worry, we'll be in safe territory by night. What about him?
You know what he got to do to him. He's on to us.
Did he figure out the racket?
You mean about those empty graves? Yes. Why would all those outlaws come to Fort Chance just to let this judge hang them?
You tell us.
All right, I will. They came here knowing they wouldn't be hung, yet the records would prove that they were. Then they'd take the reward money and split it with the judge, change their names, and disappear.
And the money?
What there is left of it, I think you'll find out to the cemetery. But I'm not going to dig it up. I've got enough blisters.
Judge, you must have told him.
I didn't tell him anything. And thanks to you, I don't have to.
That's right. One of the sweetest little setups I've ever seen.
Well, it's not going to make much difference now anyway.
Kind of unusual, isn't it, Crane? Using a gun instead of a rope? Say, that must be Hendren. Come on, there's no need for that. Let's go. Let the fire take care of him. Come on.
That's about time.
Had a little trouble in the office.
Look. All right, you three men are under arrest. Stay where you are, Dixon. You'll excuse my contempt of court, Judge, but that's exactly the way I feel. You can get me for fraud and impersonating a judge, Gallagher, but murder's a different matter. What with the evidence all gone up in smoke?
What'd you find out, Janet?
I talked to the coroner. He said the fire didn't kill the judge's brother. He was shot.
And who identified the body?
He did.
And what about your brother?
George wasn't killed by a bullet. He was hit over the head hours before he was shot.
Well, why didn't the coroner testify to that in court? He had an opportunity to.
Because he knew that you weren't the real Judge Dixon, that's why. Let's get him out of here, Stoney. So the hanging jury ended up in court again. Only this time they had company, the hanging judge himself. True, the circumstances were a little different, because now the judge and the jury were on trial, and Stoney and I were the principal witnesses. This is one of the shortest trials in history. It closed the case of the hanging jury, and the hanging judge will finish his career at the end of the same rope that had given him his reputation.